Alright, so keep a bookmark there because that's exactly where we're going to go this evening. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 17. Thank you. Last week when we looked at the, try to identify what some people think is the identification of the Antichrist, and the Reformers have said that it was the Roman Catholic, or the popes, the Roman Catholic popes, and they immediately went and launched into this, saying that the Pope was the Antichrist. The response, of course, from the Roman Catholics was to say that no, it couldn't possibly be them because it was Jews, and of course the Roman Catholic Church, the Romans, are definitely not Jews, and so therefore they point the finger at the Jews, and one of the Jews would be the Antichrist. And they continued doing this over many years, stating that the Antichrist was the Roman Catholic Church, and of course they said that a Jew was going to be the Antichrist. The question obviously arises then, what of the false prophet? Because they are in tandem, they're together. They're not just one. It's not the Antichrist, which incorporates the false prophet, but they are two distinct peoples or persons, as we can read in Revelation chapter 20. Because when Satan is cast into the lake of fire, we also note, or the Bible clearly states, that the beast, which is the Antichrist, and the false prophet are. So they've been there for 1,000 years when Satan gets cast into the lake of fire. And then, of course, you have the great white throne judgment, and then all the unsaved are going to be cast in there. So what of the false prophet then? Let's have a word of prayer, and we'll try and put some of these things together from this chapter, Revelation chapter 17, because they claim, as we've already seen, that the Antichrist are popes, and then of course they claim this verse here in terms of the time periods. Where is it? And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is and the other is not. Remember the diagram which we have here? There were different popes. 5 popes have gone, 1 is and 1 is to come. And then of course the last pope went off, and so they had to drop off that pope and move everybody across one, so that 5 have fallen and 1 is and 1 is to come. So we're going to look at that in a little bit more depth. Let's have a word of prayer and then we'll get right into it. I'm quite excited. With this discussion that reformers have against the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Catholic Church against the reformers, the question arises then, what of the false prophet? Okay, we have, and most people know Dave Hunt. He's passed now, but he wrote a book in 1994 called The Woman Rides the Beast. Now obviously that comes from Revelation chapter 17, which pointed the false prophet as being the Roman Catholic Church, and that created quite a controversy. I have this book at home in my library, and from time to time we opened up. I think we've got a photo at home with Jan and I in bed, and who took that photo? Probably Crystal. Oh yeah, Crystal. And Woman Rides the Beast. Jan was reading that book, Woman Rides the Beast, so it goes back to 1994. But anyway, created quite a controversy. Now, not only were the reformers saying that the Antichrist was the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church, but now we have Dave Hunt saying, no, that's not right, it's the false prophet. And it created quite a controversy, and many of the books were banned in Christian bookstores because Who would buy them? Roman Catholics wouldn't buy them. They boycotted them because they were selling them in Christian bookstores. And so to identify then, why did he say that? Let's have a look. The woman rides the beast. Now if we go back to Revelation 17, and it says, let's pick this up. Let's begin reading from verse 17. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw this is where it comes from, a woman sit upon a scarlet-coloured beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colour, and decked with gold and precious stones, and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Admired this view that we have. Now verse 7 says, And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. So, the angel shows this vision of a woman riding a beast. And if you know Clarence Larkin, anybody know Clarence Larkin? Yeah? You don't know Clarence Larkin? I've got a few books in my library. Yeah, okay. This is one of his pictures from one of his books. Technology is great, isn't it? You just take a photo and then email it to yourself. You don't have to have a photocopier. But anyway, we see this situation, a woman riding the beast. Now it's a beast, and the beast is usually the term for the Antichrist, but we'll come to that. But it says that this beast, verse 7, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman. So the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads, and 10 horns. So 7 heads, 3 and 3 is 6, so 1 is 7, and 10 horns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 horns. Okay? 2 images here. Okay? 2 images in verse 7. Okay, I'm just pointing up there as well because there's 2 images. The woman and the beast. How many are there? How many women are there? How many beasts are there? 1, right? 1 plus 1 is 2. Not 1. The Antichrist and the false prophet are 2 distinct entities. We'll say entities at the moment. Okay? They're 2. The Reformers have laid a charge against the Roman Catholic popes, saying the Antichrist, never mentioning about the woman or the false prophet. The false prophet. They focus on these things. There's also a focus on these 7 heads and 10 horns, and we'll get to that in a moment. If you'll read this carefully in verse 7, you'll see that there is not 1 but 2. Not 1 but 2 entities. Okay? And if you flick over a page or 2 to Revelation chapter 20, I know we've been here already. Verse 10, Revelation chapter 20, and verse 10, when Satan, at the end of the millennial reign, Satan is let free. Okay, during the millennial reign, 1,000 years of peace, as such. Satan is bound for that 1,000 years. He's then released for a short season, and then, of course, he gets captured again. And in verse 10, it says, And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are. Are, it's plural. Okay? There's the beast and the false prophet are. Not is. Okay, it's not one description, but it's two here. Okay? And shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Just the same as the Antichrist, which is the beast, and the false prophet, which is the false prophet. Okay, there's two. There's two. You'll also note, if you go back to Revelation 17, that the woman here rides the beast. Now, if you're riding a horse, in theory, who's in control? The rider. The rider. The woman rides the beast. The woman is in control. That's also important. When we come to look in a moment about the drunken with the blood of the saints in verse 6 there, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, we'll come to look at that in a moment. So the beast is pictured as having 7 heads and 10 horns upon which the woman rides. That's the beast. Picture of the beast. Now, don't stop reading, because look at verse 7. It says, and the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast. So the mystery, it's not going to be a mystery very shortly. The angel is going to explain, so we just don't stop reading. We continue to read. So in verse 8 it says, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. And then we drop down to verse 11. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So God is laying some sort of foundation or indication about who this beast is. Who this beast is. Verse 8, we see the beginning of the explanation. Okay? This beast that thou sawest and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. You know, Satan ascended out of the bottomless pit. Okay, Satan ascended out of the bottomless pit. And of course, Satan indwells the Antichrist. We'll develop that a little bit more in a moment. So it's speaking of the Antichrist and his kingdom. The Antichrist and his kingdom that is coming. The beast, and we'll pick that up a little more when we come to Daniel. Because we've got to make sure that we get this beast right. This beast right. So we're going to look at this woman, right, as who's riding this beast. And we're going to identify her in a moment. But the beast we're trying to identify as well. So we see, verse 8, the beast which thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, and they shall behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. And then verse 11, similar here. Okay? Let's go to verse 9. Verse 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads, so if you look at this, 7 heads here, we're describing this beast. 7 heads, the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So this woman, which is riding the beast has 7 heads, and the woman sitteth as the Bible says, imagery here, which are 7 mountains. 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. The description of the beast, 7 heads are 7 mountains upon which he sitteth, also represents 7 kings. And we'll pick that up in a moment soon, because that links back into the 10 horns up here. But if we just focus on the 7 mountains here, let's drop down to verse 16, which is talking about the horns. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, which is riding the beast. So these 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. I hate to preempt my messages, but you know when the Bible talks about Babylon has fallen, Babylon has fallen, that goes back to verse 5 of this chapter, which is talking about Rome, or the Roman Catholic Church. And you can see that these 10, which are 10 kings, these 10 kings hate this woman. They hate religion. They hate religion. And in fact, even though she is riding this beast, and these 7 heads, obviously about 7 mountains, but also 7 periods of time, which we'll look at Babel at the moment, in a moment. This woman who's riding this beast they hate her. They hate her. The false prophet is hated and will make war with her, and eventually will crush her. So the 10 horns, 10 kings, have one mind in that they give power to the Antichrist and his kingdom, and ultimately they make war with the woman here. Okay? And we'll see that in verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore, which sitteth upon many waters. Judgment. So, just stepping back a little bit, taking a bit of a breath, because a lot of information has come so far. We have this woman, which is the false prophet, and we'll look at that in a moment, which is the false prophet. The beast is the Antichrist and his kingdom. There will be 10 kingdoms, 7 kings as well, and we'll look at that in a moment. So we have then these kings, these kingdoms, making war with the false prophet and will destroy her. And that's when you read in the Bible, Babylon has fallen, Babylon has fallen. Okay? And we'll pick that up a little later. So we also note that this woman not only rides the beast, verse 7, but sits on many waters. This is also explained in verse 15. And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay? Nations and tongues. So there's a whole picture being developed here. The explanation that is given about who this woman is and who the beast is. Okay? Remember that in verse 7 says, And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. So, we see then this woman riding the beast, and the woman is the false prophet, and then the beast, which is the Antichrist and his kingdom. So this woman explained to be a city. Verse 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So that's why she's riding, just like you would ride a horse. You're in control. Okay? You're in control. This city, this woman, which is described here as a city, great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So she is directing the kings of the earth at this point. Of course, they will turn against her later on. We now have, or beginning to get, a much better picture of the woman which rides this beast. Two entities, kings and kingdoms. Right? The mystery is explained. There's no mystery. The woman is a great city. The woman is a great city. There is an implication here. Not just any city, but that great city. If you look back at verse 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city. The great city that these people will know about. The people that John is writing to. Remember, these are letters that are heading out to the 7 churches. They will know what that great city is. It isn't Jerusalem. Who was ruling at that time? Rome. Rome. That great city. That great city. Some have suggested that the mystery woman is the USA. Well, the USA is a country. It's not that great city. Some people have said, okay, it might be New York, the centre for commerce. They used to have Twin Towers then. Now they've got a mosque on that site. Doesn't make sense to me, but anyway. Clearly it's not USA. Not USA. The city is built on 7 mountains. We've already seen that here as well, haven't we? Where are we? Misplaced now. Oh, here we go, verse 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So it's that great city, and that great city has 7 mountains. That great city can't be New York because the United States hasn't been discovered yet. Indians are still running the planes and over there. They ended up there because of the flood, there's sea things. There might have been some bridges way for them to go over, land bridges I'm talking about, not bridges, but land bridges, and then eventually they were washed away and they ended up there. Okay? This city is built on 7 hills. It's built on 7 mountains. To many Europeans, our Port Hills is, we always have a laugh when my uncle and auntie come, because they come from a flat land, right? Just flat. Holland is flat as flat can be. And a lot of it's reclaimed from the sea. And then they see the Port Hills. Oh, look at the mountains, they say. Well, actually, we call it hills. Mountains are over there. Those are the mountains. These are just hills, all right? And so Europeans might tend to use mountains and hills interchangeably. And many suggest that 7 mountains can be said to be hills as well. So 7 mountains, 7 hills, rules out ancient Babylon. Okay? Babylon is not there. Not 7 mountains. Not 7 mountains at Babylon. If you look at Babylon, because we're talking about here in verse 5, if you go back to verse 5, it says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great. And we'll look a little bit more about that Babylon and the Babylonian Empire, because we need to go back to Daniel, okay? So just keep that in the back of your mind. So, it is that great city. It is built on 7 hills. Only one city is known for its 7 hills, and that is Rome. Makes perfect sense when this letter, which is written to the 7 churches under the Roman rule at that time, would speak about that, would indicate. This is not a mystery to those that it's written to. It might be written in code, if you like. They might have had some sort of censorship, but these letters that were sent, okay, the 7 letters that were sent to the 7 churches, which are in Asia, knew exactly what John was talking about. God was talking about. Okay? And it's important for us to realize that. The Roman Encyclopedia itself describes the city of Rome as the city of 7 hills. It makes perfect sense. Romans were ruling back then. And so when Dave Hunt started writing about the woman rides the beast and pointing to Rome, the Roman Catholic Church and the Pope as being the false prophet, well, we're not going to store that in our Christian bookstore, because then we have all the Roman Catholics boycotting us, or, and they're the biggest group, Christian group. Okay, remember what we're talking about. We're talking about the woman at the moment, and not the beast. So, Revelation 1 through to 3 again, just to pick it up. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now, so we're looking at the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. And the waters are also described. If you just quickly flick down to verse 15, because the Bible doesn't leave you hanging. It tells you who the waters are. In verse 15, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay? And yet it's one city. Okay, verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-coloured beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. It's already said that the 7 heads which thou sawest are 7 mountains. Okay, verse 9, 7 mountains. We've identified the 7 mountains as being Rome. Okay, being Rome. The waters are peoples, multitudes of peoples and nations and tongues. Okay. The whore is also, in verse 18, that great city, which is then Rome again, pointing to Rome, that great city. So she's called a whore. Fornication. To fornicate. The earthly kings have committed fornication with her, and all the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with her fornication, or with that fornication. So far, so good. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. I'm trying to keep up, right? Some things are just have to tuck away in your mind and rethink it through. The Bible tries to explain it. It says, why are you marveling? I will tell you what this means, what this is. So, there's no way that a literal city can commit fornication, right? Even though we've identified it as Rome, we know that a city, for example, Christchurch, cannot commit fornication. But who can, within the city, commit fornication? It's the people. Okay? The church, we talk often about the church, but the church is just a building, isn't it? The church is really the people. The people. And so that's sort of brought out again in verse 15, where the whore sitteth, and peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. It's the people. It's pointing us in the direction of Rome, but it's in fact talking about the people of Rome. In verse 18, it's telling us about that great city. Well, it may be a great city, but it's only made great because of the people that are there. Okay? For this city to commit fornication, it must have some sort of spiritual connection with God. Because that's what we're talking about, isn't it? That's what the book of Revelation is talking about. It's talking about the connection with God. If you go down to verse 6, Revelation 17 verse 6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. See the spiritual connection here. So we're pointing to a city, Rome, but we're not looking at the city per se, we're looking at the people in that city, which has a spiritual connection, because this whore who commits fornication, the city can't commit fornication, but the people can, which is a spiritual connection. They commit a spiritual fornication, okay, and we see, as we can, otherwise it wouldn't mean much, as I've got here, right? So, could Jerusalem be that great city? No. It's not Jerusalem because it's not built on 7 mountains or 7 hills. So only one city remains that would have any spiritual connection with God, and that is Rome. Or more particularly, the Vatican City, which is in Rome. There's the spiritual connection. So a city like Rome can't commit fornication. It's the people. It's the people. Are we getting the connection now? When the woman which is riding the beast. The Vatican City claims to be the worldwide headquarters of Christianity. Again, look at verse 16. Verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. So if we talk about the greatest Christian movement, mostly people think of the Roman Catholic Church. And there's the spiritual connection. The worldwide headquarters of Christianity is the Vatican City. That's where the Pope lives. So the Pope claims to be the only representative of God on earth and claims to be the vicar of Christ. Now, I've already read verse 15, and it just talks about where the whore sitteth, the peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. The popes have built a worldwide empire of property, wealth and influence with kings of the world. And the power of the Pope should not be underestimated. I guess many of us here in the Western society, we don't worry too much. But there's a real power with the popes. In a particular, which cardinal group? Jesuits. The Jesuits. Okay. So the power of the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church over kings was powerful in that if the kings refused to submit to the church would refuse to baptize their babies. So you better watch out, king, because if you don't submit to the church, remember it's the woman which is riding the beast, trying to ride the beast, and then the beast retaliates, or the 10 kings retaliate against the woman, and we see that her end here in this chapter. But there's a retaliation against the religion, and of course the Antichrist sets up his own religion. But we see that if the kings, a country, would not submit to the authority of the church, then they would say, well, we're not going to baptize your babies. And if you were Roman Catholic, and they told you we're not going to baptize your babies, and your baby died, where's your baby going? Limbo. It's going to go to hell. And who would want to see their baby go to hell? You know, mothers would be wailing. And husbands would be gnashing their teeth at the king and say, you do this, please. We don't want to see our children go to hell. See the power. The power. We have the power. We have the keys of the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of hell. And so the woman rides this beast. She has power. She has an awful lot of power. So this would upset the people and rebellion would take place. No king wants to see rebellion in their country. Of course, there was 2 popes at one time. There was a black pope and a white pope. And there's a whole lot of history behind the power struggle of the Roman Catholic Church. But anyhow, so no one would want to send their child to hell because they were unbaptized. The people believe that baptism saves a person. That's why they have baptism, baby baptism. You know, we know that baptism doesn't save. And we know that baptizing a baby, what happens to the baby? It just gets wet and cries a lot. Doesn't like being wet. So historically, the church crowns kings and queens. The church has been the power. You know, if our queen, the Queen of England, the Queen of the British Empire, were to step down and William step up, or Charles steps up to be the king, who's going to crown him? The church. The church. They have power to crown.
Which church would that be for?
Oh, that's the Anglican Church. That's because of the history behind Henry VIII, who wanted divorce, but the Roman Catholic Church wouldn't allow him to divorce his wives. So that's why he killed a lot of them. And then, of course, once your wife is dead, you're free to remarry, aren't you? But he wanted to divorce them, and because he wouldn't give divorce, he started the Anglican Church, or what they call it. What's it? Church of England. Yeah, Church of England. Is that right? In a nutshell. Okay, so the church has this power, and you can see it here in this picture here. The church has power. The church here has power to king, to queen, and it's a very powerful thing. Very powerful thing. And you can see that here's this woman, which has been identified as the Roman Catholic Church, and Dave Hunt identified it, and then of course the fury that happened in the Wooden Stockers book in Christian bookstores and things. But it's very clear that this is talking about the power of the Roman Catholic Church. And isn't it any wonder, verse 14 of chapter 17. Verse 14. These kings then, that are being crowned, okay, shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And that wasn't the verse that I really wanted, because I wanted the one that overcomes the nation. Oh, here we go. Verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, thee shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So you can see the retaliation. because this religion, this has so much power, so much power. And there will be an awful lot of power during the tribulation period, because the church is gone. The Holy Spirit's gone. Okay? So today, the church crowns kings and queens, and we even see it here, right? In the movies. You can see it in the movies. And of course, if we go back to verse 3, go back to verse 3. So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-coloured beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now we'll come back to this beast because in a moment, well, not in a moment. Well, we've still got 40 minutes yet. Thank you, Anita. And of course, verse 4, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet. So here, this man is arrayed in purple and scarlet. What's the colour of the Roman Catholic Church? Purple and scarlet. Whoops, let me go back. There we go. Here they all are. What colours do you see? Purple and scarlet. Purple and scarlet. The Romans were in power during that time. Remember that. This is not a mystery in terms of the early church. This letter, which was written to the 7 churches, Rome was in power. Rome was in power. They understood what this was talking about. The further we get away and we try to, or many people try to interpret these things and look at it differently. But Revelation 7:4, purple and scarlet coloured, decked with gold, precious stones, pearls, and having a golden cup. Wow, what do you see? The golden cup of the Eucharist. Okay? The Mass. So purple and scarlet was the colour of the Caesars. Was the colour of the Caesars. Christ was forced to wear these colours. Because didn't he claim he King of the Jews? That's what people said that he was. Let's go to Matthew chapter 27 just to see. Remember, the purple and the scarlet, the colour of the Caesars. Today we see it in the Roman Catholic Church. Rome, or in particular, Vatican City. Okay? So, Matthew chapter 27. Matthew chapter 27. Verses 28 and 29. Verse 28, and they stripped him. So this is Christ, right? Verse 26, then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. All the soldiers were coming around. In verse 28, and they stripped him, and put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had plaited a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! That colour is one for royalty. One for royalty. And the purple and scarlet was the colour of the Caesars. And of course we see that colour being worn by the Roman Catholic Church. In other words, they're in power. They're in power. Even, these guys are all wearing black, but you can see their caps are either purple or scarlet red. Okay? John chapter 19. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John chapter 19. I guess I should stop, Anita, really, just to allow you to assimilate all the information you've been
Very
getting.
disappointing.
Well, you're disappointed. Oh, okay. There's a lot of information here, and we need to try and work our way through Revelation chapter 17 that points us or identifies us who the picture is of the whore, the woman, which is riding the beast. Verse 2 says, verse 1, then Pilate therefore took Jesus and scourged him, and the soldiers plaited a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe. Okay, a purple robe, indicating that he was King of the Jews, and that's what they wore. Verse 5, then came forth Jesus forth, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate saith unto them, behold the man. Behold the man. So, the colour, if you go back to Revelation chapter 17, the colour that's indicated here, the people who received the 7 letters knew who they was talking about. Who is that great city? Rome. That great city. It's not Jerusalem. It's the one that's built on 7 hills. Rome is built on 7 hills. The colour, scarlet and purple colours, that's gold and precious stones, and having a golden cup, with full of abominations, filthiness. We'll look a little bit more in a moment as we look at or further identify that this is the Roman Catholic Church. There can be no doubt. There can be no doubt. She is, or will be, she is the false prophet. She is the false prophet. She will seek to rule, and she will give power to the Antichrist until these 10 kings turn on her, because they're sick of religion and sick of the religion having so much power. Because she gives power to the beast. She gives authority to the beast. Because, you know, if the Pope says you must do this to this person over here, the Roman Catholic Church will do it. Now, it won't be the Roman Catholic Church per se, but they will be the head of a whole lot of cults. Okay? So the golden cup in her hand identifies the woman with the Roman Catholic Church. The Catholic Encyclopedia again says the most important of the sacred vessels, the cup, right, is the most important of the sacred vessels. It may be of gold or silver, and if silver, then the inside must be surfaced with gold. But if it's gold, it's gold. But if it's silver cup, then the inside must be gold. Now, I didn't say that. That's the Catholic Encyclopedia. I think do we have one in the library? I think we do. So you can check all these things out. Okay, what do you see inside the golden cup? Okay, let's go. We just want to finish off here. What did we see inside the golden cup? So verse 4 talks about the purple and scarlet colour, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand. What's inside this golden cup? It's full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Full of abominations and of filthiness of her fornication. Now remember, earlier we talked about the spiritual nature of this woman. Okay? She claims to be a Christian. Roman Catholic Church would claim to be Christian. But then worship other. They worship other things. Relics. Okay? Worshipping relics. They worship Mary. They worship the saints and things. That's fornication to God. What should they be worshipping? God. And only God. And only God. abomination and filthiness of her fornication. Much of the Roman Catholic wealth came by the confiscation of property from the victims of the Inquisitions. Now it's really interesting to read about the Inquisitions, the Spanish Inquisitions, all those Inquisitions. The torture, hungry rats. You were made naked, lay down, stretched out, tied up. Hungry rats were then put in to a glass jar, tipped upside down onto your belly. Now the rats wanted to escape. What the hell are they going to do that? Eat their way out. They would eat their way out through you. Recant or else. Burn them at the stake. People were burned. Imagine the pain. These were real Christians. They were burned at the stake. And the property from these victims were confiscated by the church. Not the kings. By the church. From their ears by the church. These were called corpse trials. Okay, so we have even the dead were exhumed to stand trial, and property was taken from their ears by the church. So you might have eared something, right? The will was read out. Oh, I've inherited something. I've inherited the land. They exhumed the body of the dead person, found that they weren't Roman Catholic, and obviously couldn't recant of their faith. Too bad. How sad. We're going to take your property. So now you've lost your property. It's great, isn't it? Hey? And then you've probably read about Martin Luther and how he, I think we've got the DVD in there somewhere, and how the tinkling of the coin, they wanted to raise money to build more ornate, what do you call them, churches. I'll just call them churches. Churches. Call them churches. And they needed to raise money. And so what do? Where do you get that money from? From the people. You want somebody out of purgatory? Ding, 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 ding. And every sound that they make, they'll get further and further to heaven. So the more money you put in, the louder it sounds, the better it is for your loved ones. That's how they raise the money. More of the Roman Catholic wealth came through the sale of salvation. I'm not going to baptise your baby. I'm not going to baptise you. Where are you going to spend eternity if I don't baptise you? If you believe that baptism saves you, then what are you going to do? You're going to be baptised, aren't you? And if somebody says, oh, I'm not going to baptise you, and only the church has the authority to baptise you, you're stuck. You'll do whatever it takes. Unless you turn and become a real Christian. Purchasing heaven, even on installments for themselves or their loved ones. Installments. Okay, so you can get to purgatory a little up, further up the thing. You know, buying it by installments. What do they call it on APRO? Is that it? When you put something away on a hire purchase? No.
Hire purchase.
Yeah, hire purchase. But what do you, when you don't take it home, they put it out the back.
Lay-by.
Lay-by. Yeah, lay-by. You know, just heaven will be put away on lay-by. It'll be given to you when you have paid the price. What is that price? Well, it's different for everybody, of course. If you've got lots of money, you're going to want lots of money. The Roman Catholic Church then held the keys of heaven or hell. If you believed this, what would you do? Of course, you would do. And of course, these kings that we're going to look at, obviously we've run out of time, but these kings that we're going to look at, they're sick of it. They're sick of it that the church is ruling their lives, and so they turn on them. And we see that's the end of them. And of course, Babylon has fallen, has fallen, has fallen. Whoa, whoa. Everybody's going to wail. Not as in a W-H W-A-L-E, but a W-A-I-L. They're going to wail, they're going to cry because it's fallen. Horrible. Just the hands that are red with blood. She is drunk with it. She's drunk with the blood of martyrs. She's drunk, not merely drinking or two, but overindulging in it. So it was with the Roman Catholic Church. Innocent people were killed because they would not yield to the Roman Catholic Church demands. Look up the Inquisitions. Rome, medieval, Spanish Inquisitions. 3 million condemned, 300,000 burned at the stake. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colour and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of a fornication. Verse 6, drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Wow, that's the Roman Catholic Church. There's no other identification. What else could it be? The Bible itself explains who this woman is. That great city, built on 7 hills. Not the city itself cannot commit fornication. It must be the people. And so it continues on, giving the colour. The colour, the purples of the Roman Empire. The leaders there, the Caesars, it's the colour they wore. And we see that today in the Roman Catholic Church, the Church of Rome, or the Vatican City in particular. Let's close in a word of prayer. I'm sorry, we're about 35 minutes early, but never mind. I'll make it up next time. All right? We'll have 2 hours next time. Let's pray.